this is a little bit bigger crowd than we were expecting, so it's not going to be super conversational, but the chat is there for questions, comments, concerns, even criticism. We'll take it. So if you have something that you want to stop the group with, if you'll pop it in the chat, we will address every single one before we're done. And I have a couple notes. So if you see me looking away, I'm just looking at my notes. We did not, I think it was fairly clear in the invite, we are not talking about what the Boost system does today. Every single person on this webinar workshop has Boost does something somewhat different for each of you. So we're not going to dive into what Boost does. I think if you're on this call, you know what Boost's role is. We are talking more, I would bump up against sales consulting. You are not going to leave here in 45 minutes and say, oh my gosh, these guys, they said something that transformed my entire life and my practice. That's unlikely to happen. I don't know, but I would bet that's not going to happen. We do have some jewels, some gems. We do have a unique perspective from where we sit, which is interaction and info and data from dozens and dozens and dozens of private practice bariatric clinics. So that's what we're coming with. But we didn't charge because we want you to make sure you get your money's worth, guaranteed. Let's just bring up the elephant in the room. I don't know if you guys have heard this, but for some people, bariatric volume is down. Depending on geography, we hear from clinics. We are exactly what we were last year. We're down 20%. We're down 30%. I heard someone say 40 to 45. And let's not hide from that fact. If you are down 45%, then you are making some pretty big decisions with your business. So this block of time is talking about surgical volume. Check the chat, and people were punching in how they were approaching medical weight loss or medications. Feel free to pop your comments in there. We're going to send this recording out, and I'm going to share my screen and try to talk a little less. Okay.
Let's just read off a few, especially for people who couldn't make it. I'm just going to read off. Sure. One person says a ton, a little. This is the medications. A ton, a little, doing a ton. We're starting to do them a little, a little. We're doing meds. We're about 50-50 doing them for people who want to start there in the hopes that they'll convert to surgery. Medical weight loss is steadily increasing. Anyone else, feel free to chime in. Just everyone can kind of get a pulse on what is everyone else doing.
Yeah, in the chat. It's interesting. I was talking to a Medtronic rep, and they were in the Northeast and said there used to be 2-3 billboards on a major highway that were for a weight loss surgeon. We don't work with them, but they were all surgical billboards. And then a few weeks ago they drove past, and they're all medical or medication billboards for weight loss. So, I don't know. I don't know what the perfect answer is. Do you get all that traffic in and you see those patients and you kind of mess up some of your schedule with the hopes that you hang on to them when they convert? Can you be very profitable doing medications? That's probably not, I'm not the qualified person to teach that, but okay, here's what we know. It's a challenging time for bariatrics, no doubt. When times get challenging, we observe people reacting in many different ways. Sometimes the reaction is shaking up everything in the practice. Sometimes that's good and healthy, but sometimes it turns into a little bit of chaos. Let's launch TikTok. Let's offer buy one, get one free for teachers. I actually had a surgeon offer buy one, get one free, like bring a friend for free, and not one person took them up on it. So that's another story. Wow. But just, shaking everything up. So, cut the budget in half, no, double the budget, just trying to see what will get people in. And so our hope for today is that you leave in 40 minutes here and you have some clarity. You have some peace of mind. You have a clear direction on 2 or 3 things that you can do to bring in a handful more surgeries each month and keep some momentum going. And we're going to talk really, I hope this is not disappointing, but we're going to talk about the fundamentals of sales and marketing. The fundamentals are what got you here. The fundamentals, we believe, are what will keep you here. That's what we're going to go back to. That's what championship athletic teams focus on, is the fundamentals. So that's where we're going. I'm going to start with this slide. If I could boil it down if you're going to make mistakes when times get tough, it's going to be one or some combination of these three. Mistake number one, you don't have a clear plan. You're throwing a bunch of spaghetti up. You start sort of a frantic effort to generate volume. But if you don't have a way to manage the results of what you're doing, you cannot manage, to measure it, then you can't manage it. So then you're 100 days down the road of throwing new things and ideas and initiatives, and you don't have much to show for it because you can't put your finger on, hey, what we tried that thing, who measured it all the way through to see how many surgeries it brought me? So no clear plan. Number two, you kill your marketing machine or your budget. We know this as well as anybody. If things dramatically change for you, you've got to make decisions financially. But remember, today you're eating the fruit of what you were doing 90 days ago for new leads. So if there's holes in the schedule, it's not from last week or the week before, right? It's from 90 days ago. So if you make big changes in how you're getting people to you, then if the math works out, you might, in 100 days, might be worse off than you are today. Also, in a down market, a lot of people do pull in the reins. Sometimes that is actually the best time to go out and get leads because they're cheaper. And mistake number three is treating all leads the same. Just, I think this is a common approach in medicine, seeing the world in two camps, which is, excuse me, hey, people who don't want the surgery and people who do. And we would say, and what we're about to show in a second, that is not the situation, right? Everyone who comes to you has their own personal story. They've been on their own journey. They came to you in some unique way. So you can't treat them all the same because they're not. And we would even say, if a clinic is saying, hey, this is a code blue, then we would say, okay, if it's code blue, then that means you treat every single lead that you paid for to come into your practice, even into your funnel, you treat them uniquely. You look at their situation, you see what is their insurance coverage, what are their options, financing, you got to get super creative. I know for some people, I've beat this to death, but this is the funnel. You have a funnel. Everyone who ends up in the operating room came in the top somehow, whether from a Google ad, from a Facebook ad, from retargeting, from referral, from word of mouth, all the myriad of ways that you attract attention, they started there. But they didn't just decide to call and then have surgery. They went through this psychological process of, awareness, discovery, evaluation, intent, purchase. Everything we buy, we psychologically go through this process. Sometimes it's really fast. You see a pack of gum at the checkout counter at the grocery store, you go through this in half a second. But the bigger the purchase, the more financial the purchase, the more emotional, the more physical, the more time it can take to go through this process and really come to terms with, this is my decision. So I show this because it sets the stage for what we call levers to pull. So on the left is levers to pull. On the right, this was a couple of years ago, but this was the text that I got. It was end of January, and this surgeon sends me this text and says, "Got my year-end numbers. We did 702 bariatric surgeries. 481 people completed a consult and never moved on. 160 people started the process and fell off. Overall conversion rate 52%, meaning for every patient that sat in front of this group of surgeons, for every 10 patients, 5 of them had surgery. And so this surgeon says 1,343 total consults. It's a conversion issue." So when we talk about the funnel, the sales funnel, we're talking about, and I have this whole other drawing, but it gets way too mathematical. But as leads come into the top of the funnel and work their way down, they become dramatically more valuable to you if you could put a dollar amount to it. So let's breeze through this real quick. These are if you're sitting at your office saying, what are the things I can do to generate more surgeries from, how can we squeeze more juice out of this lime? These are the 6 things you can do, and each of these can have an action to them. So number one, your traffic, and you know what this is. It's people that hit the website, that see it, and those can come from a dozen different ways, but it's number of eyeballs that see your website. Number 2, leads. Some people know exactly what this means. Some people are a little fuzzy on it. A lead, or in the Boost world, We count a lead as someone who gives you their contact information and permission to follow up with them. That is a true lead. So when your marketing agency sends you that 800 pages of reports and says, you're getting a bazillion hits and impressions, and it's like, okay, that's good. That could be fine. But how many leads are we getting? How many people in this world are giving me their first name, their last name, their email, and their phone number, possibly, and included permission for me or Boost or my staff, someone to follow up with them? That's a lead. Leads work their way through the process, and those become what we're trying to nudge them towards and educate them is a consult booked. Hey, put me on the calendar. I've decided I want to come in. Fantastic. Ooh, we got someone on the calendar. It's next Friday at 2 p.m. Now we've got a potential patient. Then out of that number, we know some of those people do not make it to that appointment. So number 4 is how many people actually walk in the door, go past the front desk, experience what you have in the office, or show up on a virtual call. How many consults actually get completed? Number 5, how many people go through, which is crazy unique for bariatrics, how many people go through all the hoops it takes from consult, move all the way forward to number 6, surgery's complete, and we break those up between insurance and self-pay. So if you're going to change something, if you're going to make some decision and invest time, energy, effort, money, this is really all you got. It's some combination of these things. We talk about the levers to pull because this is just Twitter clickbait, but this lady said, just devoured some wings before Super Bowl tonight. And if you work at Boost, you're like, oh no, there's enough meat on there to feed another family. Don't you dare say that you devoured some wings. And what we're saying, we say still juice in the lime, but it's meat on the bone. A clinic might sit back and say, hey, we're spending, just make up a number, we're spending $10,000 a month total to get people in here. Do we need to spend more? And I think every marketing agency in the world will say, yes, you want more, you want more patients, got to spend more money. And that's not true.
It's sometimes right, not always right.
I think it's right if you can confidently say that you have looked at your patient journey and you've looked at these levers to pull and you feel like you score an 80, like you're an 80% or higher on each of these, then fantastic. But you have to know in the world of marketing, if you're going to put $1 in, you should get $1.87 out. Fantastic. Then turn that thing up. Absolutely. Spend $30K a month on marketing. Your marketing budget should be unlimited if you know for certain that when you put $1 in, you get $2 out. So I don't know if we've never met a clinic who was running on all cylinders because it's super hard to do. You have to be very intentional and pay attention.
And Maddie, go back to those 6. And there's all this math that Maddie could show you as an example. I think we've done that before in a past workshop, but basically that the deeper you get into the funnel, the less of a tweak you need to make in your conversion rate to get a disproportional result. And so if you get 15% more eyeballs to your website, that doesn't lead to 15% more surgeries. But if you make a 15% tweak further down in terms of of all the patients that you actually see and have a consult, if you can tweak that, you're going to see way more surgeries. I don't have the math off the top of my head, but the idea is more meat on the bone, meaning the deeper in the funnel, the more you can get a disproportional result, the deeper you get.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah, I'm happy to. I love the math formula. It's crazy.
I think you and I are the only one who geek out on the math, but
yeah, maybe so. Okay, so let's get to the real point here. This is a simple reactivation campaign, but we would say, hey, it's time to get scrappy. So let's recircle the troops. Everything in the clinic, any person in this world who has a pulse, who's ever filled out a form, anyone who stepped foot in the office, anyone who was signed up for a telemedicine visit, there are probably other lists, some referral list, someone who came to a health fair at the expo, whatever, even if it's 2 years old, to say, where are these people? Where are the human beings that have interacted with you? If you're fuzzy on your pipeline, Liam can certainly help you identify which category these people are, but we're talking about people who know who you are, who have had some interaction with you, and what we would say is you make if this is a code blue, then make those people an offer that is so good they would feel stupid saying no. Make it near impossible for them. And I don't have an amazing I can't come up with a list for everyone because each of your situations is so different. Some of you offer medical, some are doing the medications, some are, some offer ESG, lots of cash pay, no cash pay. So it's you're too different to nail down a perfect list for everybody, but we thought let's just get the juices flowing here. What are the kinds of things? I know one clinic, they had a real turn a couple months ago. So they pulled every single person who had ever booked a consult and didn't complete it, or finished a consult and didn't end up in surgery. It's a fairly large clinic. They broke up all these patients, all their contact info, and distributed them amongst the staff and said, hey, if we're slow, everyone's got a little tracker sheet, call these people and write down what happened to them. Just what they call it, just a courtesy call. Hey, courtesy call, you had reached out sometime back and see that you never made it forward. I was going to see if the situation had changed. Is it financing, job change, just changed your mind, had some question that no one knew about, had an objection that no one knew about. And these are just ideas to get started, but offer to help, financing changes, offer to help them fill out the financing application. I'm kind of joking here, but I say, hey, the Dr. Smith will come to your house. Like, give us your address, we'll be there. Handwritten cards in the mail. We're huge on that. It's hugely impactful. You think about these people who interacted with you and came up with some reason not to go forward. They still have that reason, and what they need is some evidence on the other side. They need something to say, hey, you know what? Actually, this is a sign. Dr. Patterson sent me a handwritten card. I'm going to go see her. I've been trying to decide what I'm going to do, and this pushes me over the edge to take action. And the last one is, let's not hide from the medications question. Even clinics that aren't doing much of it, aren't doing it at all, I think it would be a mistake to not say, hey, what do you think about the weight loss medications? Have you heard about that? What's your stance? Let's talk about it. Let's get it out in the open. And if you don't do them, a great explanation of, well, here's why. I don't think it's a long-term solution. There are some issues that people are coming up with. I'm not a doctor, so I can't give medical advice, but
I'm curious, in consultations, is that something that you're all bringing up proactively, knowing that it's top of mind for a lot of people, or just letting and waiting to see if the patient themselves brings it up?
Or you want people to answer verbally?
Yeah, I guess I threw a wrench in there. Not
Yeah,
sure.
go ahead.
Usually,
I'm just curious.
usually, if surgery is not an option for the patient for whatever reason, then we talk about medication and other alternatives.
By the time patients get to me, they've oftentimes failed medication.
Okay.
Megan says, or Emily says surgery first. Megan says most book their appointment based on the medications.
Yeah. Okay.
We discuss all the options that the patient is interested in. Patient leads the discussion. We offer both and have independent pipelines and Boost.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the larger point around this offer, this reactivation, is it's going to look different for everyone, but there's something. It doesn't even need to be monetary, but getting together with you and your top staff in a whiteboard and saying, what can we do to make this process easier? I think Maddie's going to touch on that shortly about reducing friction, but what's one small thing that it doesn't need to change the world, but it just, like Maddie said, it tilts a little bit in their favor, and why wouldn't I take them up on it? You're going to get on a Zoom with me and walk me through applying for care credit? Sure, like some version of that. Maybe that's a dumb example, but you guys will come up with better ones. But some little way to tilt it, some little gesture. It doesn't need to be big. It might be an investment in time. It doesn't need to be your time. It can be your staff's time. But some way to shake things up for that person who otherwise would not take action.
Yeah, I think we could, if we're going to bring up one single thing to do to help increase surgical volume, taken by itself, it would seem like, well, yeah, okay, of course, sure, we could do that. It's not going to double our surgical volume. That's right. But what we're saying is, if you look at it as a funnel, if you could change up your call to action in your ads and you add another 35 leads a month, and then you were making people fill out the new patient paperwork to send it in before they came to see you. And what you don't see is the people who fall out. So I'm making it up, but you're losing 10 consults a month because those people, they struggle to print out the paperwork and get a pen and fill it out and fax it back. It's lost in their, in their filing cabinet. So you lost another 10. And then people want to get their insurance checked at your office. And a couple months ago, you all had a meeting and said, "Hey, how are we doing on insurance checks?" I say, "Yeah, we're doing great. We're getting answers to people in four days. Fantastic." But something happened, staff turned over, there's some backlog, and now it's taking 15 days to get the answer. And you just haven't seen that information. So now you lost another handful of consults because it just took too long to get my insurance back. They got back to me, and honestly, I didn't even remember making the appointment. And then how soon they can get in for that first appointment. It's stretched out too long. And so every day people have to wait, their motivation wears off. So now you lost another 5 patients. Like, you add those lost patients up all the way down this funnel. And I mean, that's why Amazon does, same day delivery, and why now they're doing same hour delivery with drones. That's why there's a 5-minute oil change shop down from my house. Like, when someone makes the decision, it's crazy because they waited 11 years to do it. But once they want to come in, they have built up that momentum. They want to come in now. They want an answer now. They don't want 7, 8, 9, 10 more steps in between. I think this is an answer, and sitting in front of the doctor and moving forward, because that's where we lose them. And yes, we are going to talk about that more here in a second. I got 3 big action items. Take your pick if you want to do all 3 or some combination. Again, I think take it on its own. If someone said, "Hey, we're struggling, what should we do?" I feel kind of silly saying, "Well, have you called your own office?" But I don't think anyone has called more bariatric offices than me. I'm going to put that little trophy on my bookshelf back here. But you would be shocked, appalled. You couldn't believe how it goes half the time. No one answers the phone. It rings forever. It goes to voicemail. Someone picks it up and immediately puts me on hold. Someone picks it up and puts me on hold. The next person can answer the question. It's not great. And so, again, the people who fall out from the phone call, they don't show up on your profit and loss statement. They don't show up on your board of tracking patients because they self-selected out. They never came in. So I would call your office, use someone else's phone, use a friend's phone, use your significant other, right? So that your staff can't see it's you, but call in the morning, call over lunch when all the patients are calling you, and someone better answer that phone at lunch and call after hours and see what's the experience like. Hey, been thinking about this. How soon could I get in to see the doctor? Ask questions that patients would ask. Well, I would say I'll pause, but well, if you have a question or comment, we'll be done here in a second and we'll do Q&A. So I say, call your own office. And number 2, I say, okay. And even if you're not going to call your own office, at least do a little circle the wagons on how do we handle the cost question? Because yes, there are medications, but also, we all are buying groceries and we see car payments and interest rates. So people are feeling squeezed. And when people feel squeezed, they price shop. So I promise, people are emailing your office, people are calling your office, and all they're saying is, hey, they've made the decision. They saw someone at work, super successful. They finally said, forget it, I'm doing it. And now they've Googled and you came up and you're one of 3 that they're calling, and they call and say, how much is the surgery? I don't have insurance, I'm paying cash. And I think a lot of offices have had that conversation to say, hey, here's how we handle the cash question. But if weeks have gone by, people forget, people change their mind, staff turns over. So these are just a few examples, and I can email these out if it's helpful, but almost anything is better than just giving the price. So I call a clinic and say, I don't have insurance. I'm cash pay. How much is it? And the person says, it's $13,100. I say, thank you very much. Goodbye. Right? I'm shopping on price. So here's a few scripts you can use. Number one, hey, you're so smart to shop around for pricing, but just a word of caution. Not every clinic is giving an all-inclusive price. Can we talk about that? And I know, so you may be a clinic that doesn't give all-inclusive price. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying, you got to start the conversation somewhere. Number two, great question. But I can tell you, if you're looking for the absolute cheapest surgery, because right, nobody wants to be put in that category. So if you're looking for the absolute cheapest surgery, that's not us, right? We're about quality here. Can I tell you 3 things about us? And then we talk pricing. Of course, they say yes. And then I say, sizzle. That's when you say, great. Well, and I have some examples here in a second, but clinics will say, well, what do we say? And we say literally anything. You tell them, did you know our surgeon has one of the lowest complication rates in the country? Did you know our surgeon went to, insert med school? Did you know that, most people choose us because we're located downtown the medical district, super easy to get here. Did you know we have some of the best financing plans in the planet? Did you you could come up with 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 things that make you different. Because in that person's head, I promise the next clinic is not going to do that. So you've at least given them some weight to, it's not just about price. They did say some other things, and that's very interesting. No one else said that they did that. Otherwise, you're selling a commodity. And if you pitch it as it's surgery and here's the price, then you're going to lose that battle, or even worse, you're going to win a race to the bottom. I like this one a lot. So if you're in the conversation and you say, and one thing we do differently here, Dr. Smith doesn't just sell surgeries. Can I tell you what else is included in the price? And again, you come up with literally everything, like pre-op visits and post-op visits and vitamins. We have a members-only Facebook group that is dietitian-led. Sizzle, sizzle, sizzle. We have fantastic parking. Our building is stucco, and they just redid the stucco. Like anything to stack up in my little buying chart of, oh, that's actually the last person I called, the last clinic I called. They said nothing. They didn't say any of this stuff, even though it's likely included for that clinic too, but they didn't have the time and energy and attention to bring it up. And then I love to bring up the price like this. Hey, because sometimes I know sometimes you just have to give the price over the phone. You can try to say, hey, we like to see you come in here, meet Dr. Smith. We'll talk about the options. Sometimes that just doesn't work. I get that. So all of this total price comes to $13,215 or about $231 a month if you finance it. So that's a good way to wrap up that conversation. You got to tell them what they want, make it sound exciting. This is a big deal. This is a big step. This is a great move. My gosh, we cannot wait to see you in here. You sound like a perfect fit. Dr. Smith has helped so many patients just like you. And last, if you do, so I know some of you don't do a ton of cash, but if you do, it's crazy. I just Googled it the other day. The average, almost everyone on here can confidently say this line, but hey, our cash price is about half the national average. Can I ask you a few questions to give me a better understanding of where you're at? And they say, of course. And then what do you ask? You just ask 2 or 3 questions that you would ask any human being who called the clinic. How long have you been thinking about this? This is a big decision. How long have you been thinking about it? Man, we've seen so many patients come here and change their life. I was curious, why did you decide to make the call today? This is a big deal. Tell me more. That's one of our favorite phrases. They give an answer and say, well, I just, my dad had heart disease and I don't want to have heart disease. You say, tell me more about that. And they go a level deeper and say, yeah, well, my dad passed away when he was 58 and I'm 40, now I'm 41. And this is a time to start making it's okay to keep going and get emotional, but that key phrase is tell me more. And then depending on your situation or who does these calls, I think this is just pro level to say, hey, smart of you for price shopping. I would do the same thing. Have you called anyone else? No, not yet. Okay. Well, if you're going to call a couple other clinics, I totally get that. I would be so curious to see what they said and what they offered. Would it be okay if I call you back? I'm going to make a note and I'll call you back tomorrow afternoon and see what you found out from them. Would that be okay? Oh, that is crunchy. That tells me you care about me and you do. I would probably say, you know what, I'm not going to call any other clinics because you've just blown me away. But even if I did, and then you at least have a chance to call and say, hey, Marshall, I talked to you yesterday. This is Maddie from ABC Bariatrics. Yeah, what did you find out? And then Marshall says, yeah, this other clinic, super similar to you guys, but just, yeah, honestly, it's $500 less and money's really tight. And so this is a tough decision for me. And you, right? Then you have all the facts you can say, tell you what, Marshall, if it's a $500 difference, you get in here, let's see what we can do. So, Jonah, Liam, anything to add to that? Are we good?
Yep, nothing to add.
And so action item number 3, and I don't know which of these is the most important. I would absolutely do them all, but the self-audit, Jonah mentioned this before. If you go back up here and say, hey, every bariatric clinic has a funnel. We have things that happen and every patient has to go through this gauntlet to get here. It's hard to move the levers and make improvements if you can't see the gauntlet. So order some Chipotle, get your top 3, 4, 5, 6 people involved in this process in the conference room and get the old whiteboard marker out and say, hey, man, we haven't talked about this in a while. We've had some staff turnover. We introduced a different ancillary service, had a lot of changes. How does this work? If I am a new patient and I call this number or I submit this form, what happens now? Tell me who gets that in this clinic? What do they do with it? And how long does it take? Because then you can start to see timelines. And you may have to run out and get the person who checks insurance and bring them in and say, hey, how many days are we on turn that around? Okay, fantastic. Hey, when new patient calls in, how far out are they getting to see me? Oh, what? No, why are you? Oh, you guys are booking, more time, less time, squeeze them in, do them after hours, do Saturdays. And I will money back guarantee this whole workshop if you will not find 1, 2, 3, 4 things that you can make easier. You can say, what did we use earlier? Oh my gosh, wait, we're emailing them the new patient packet that's 16 pages and having them print it out and fill it out and fax it. Like this, when patients were lined up around the block, nobody thought about this. Now this is a problem. This is keeping a handful of people from coming to see me. Make it easier, make it faster. You know what? Maybe even start with a blank whiteboard and say, if we were starting today and making it the absolute fastest, easiest for the patient, not for us, where would we start? Can they literally just drive up here and see us? Do they have to fill out anything? Do they have to do anything? Or can we say, hey, we will see you. We just had a spot open up this afternoon. Get over here. I know that's extreme, but just example of, if you can start removing those little roadblocks along the way, you will pick up 5%, 10%, 15%. And you do that at every stage in the funnel. And you look up and say, oh my gosh, we're hitting home run here. Like we're seeing a lot more leads, a lot more consults scheduled, a lot more consults completed, a lot more people making all the way through. And at the end, a lot more surgical volume. So that's all of the slides. And I feel like I've done all the talking because I have done all the talking. But we've got some good time left. So we will probably finish before the top of the hour. But very curious on a couple things. If anybody, and we probably have some good stories, but does anybody have I want to hear a real life example of, have you found a big, like you looked at your funnel and how patients come to see you and you found, oh my gosh, we didn't know this was happening or not happening, and you changed it, and what the results were? Risky for me to ask that in case no one answers, but would love to hear it. From some brave soul. Or would anybody be so bold as to say, hey, yeah, we do actually have a problem with which one? What is it? How the phones are answered?
So our paperwork was, as you mentioned, sent to patients via email. And then they had to print it out and then fill it out and then fax it back to us. Many of our patients don't have printers, much less a fax machine. So it made things quite difficult for them. At Liam's suggestion, we digitized all of it. That's probably doubled the amount of patients that we're seeing.
Man, fantastic. And even better that you worked in a promotion for Liam and Boost in there. But yes, so number one, double the number of patients we're seeing because it's a thing like that number would never show up on any report, any profit and loss, any surgical report because those people never made it in the clinic. So boom, there's a big one. The paperwork. I love it. Thanks, Dr. Nosman. Anybody else, or we'll just open it up to absolute? Oh yeah, thank you, Heather. Eliminate paper charts. Yes.
I've heard this
and
anecdotally from a few different clinics about a disconnect between what the front desk understands. Like maybe they heard at some point that the surgeon only had these certain blocks open for scheduling new patients. And I can't remember any specific examples, but I know a handful of times I've just heard this on calls with some of you. And when push comes to shove, maybe those were defined a while back, and the person scheduling takes those very literally, and they will someone won't be able to get on there for the next month or so, and they'll schedule them way out. And when the surgeon finds out about that, they say, "Are you kidding me? Double book them. I'm happy. I will make room." I did not know that was happening, and maybe that's happening for the last year, and no one talked about it. So that's a good example, something to look at. The shorter the time you can have when you're scheduling and when they actually come in, the motivation level, like Maddie said, every day drops a little bit. The increased chance for no-show drops or increases a little bit. So the more you can condense that window, the better.
We're really good on time, so happy to open it up for if you've got Q&A on this subject, selling through your funnel or pipeline, bring it up. Also, just any Q&A. How often do you get to ask private practice bariatrics around the country?
Hey, Maddie, I have a question. It's Paul.
Hey, Paul.
I'm curious I know back in the day in bariatrics, the popular sort of patient acquisition channel was seminars, and it kind of went away with digital marketing and all that stuff. I'm seeing the seminars kind of resurface in other, similar parallel elective surgery arenas. I'm curious to find out if anybody out there is either continue doing seminar or is thinking of reintroducing it. Or am I just crazy?
This is Megan from Northwest Weight and Wellness. We had 2 seminars a month, and they were like 1 and 2 potential patients to attend. It was really just a waste of our time, to be perfectly blunt. So we dropped it down to once a month, and we've actually seen an increase in attendance. But our the girl that's actually working our Boost leads has actually convinced people to sign up for consultations and bypassing seminar altogether when they put in a seminar lead. So we've kind of seen a little uptick in that, but we don't get a ton of participation because it's not a requirement anymore. And it used to be for our hospital that we were partnered with.
Appreciate that, Megan. Thank you.
I've heard an interesting way to think about it. When times are good, you kind of want to tighten things up a little bit and put a barrier in front of people to weed out tire kickers. And so this is a battle we often pick with with clinics. Is a lot of them will have a requirement. You must watch the seminar because the surgeon doesn't want to waste time saying the exact same thing in every consult. If you're in a position to do that, great, more power to you. If you are struggling lately, that might be something to revisit. As the pendulum swings with your patient volume, you tighten and loosen the barriers that you put in front of that patient. So I think seminars are a fantastic tool for building trust in a leveraged way, especially if it's a digital online seminar that you can pre-record once. That's a fantastic asset. You sit and watch a webinar like this for 45 minutes. You kind of you feel like you know the surgeon before you walk in. That's fantastic, but that's a different thing if it's free, if it's on your YouTube, if we bake it into our email funnels and things like that. It's different if it's just kind of a, watch this at your own leisure if you want to, versus a requirement to come in. And all of a sudden that's another barrier, and people are getting hit there without being able to pass through without you even knowing it. And your volume is suffering as a result, and you don't even know.
Yep. Yeah. Good comment from Aaron. They've seen increased consults by allocating some time to weekend slots. So curious, anybody else doing after hours or weekend slots just to get people in faster or easier?
Maddie, it's not weekend slots, but we're allocating a resource, so an individual to communicate via Boost text to sign patients up and get them on the normal weekday slots. But we're
Gotcha.
actually allocating a person to do that over the weekend, certain number of hours, because we find that the amount of time spent is directly correlated to getting good leads into actual appointments.
Got it. Okay. Makes sense. And Megan and Haley both say we do after hours. Like what's after hours? You're offering appointments until 6, 7, 8? Is that every day? 6 to 7 p.m. New patient Saturday once a month. Someone's thinking about doing. Yeah. Haley says whenever. I think that's kind of, I don't know. Is there anything wrong with saying, hey, if we, how can we get these people in after hours? How can we shift someone's time in the clinic around? That just seems, I know a lot of people, the objection is, it's hard for me to get off work. I live across town. Anyway, I think that's a good one. Curious.
Yeah, I think that's where you have to train the new patient coordinator to ask what can get the patient in the door sooner. So as long as they're asking the question of like, why do you need something 2 weeks out? Then you can kind of figure out where to fit somebody in sooner.
Yep. Yeah. Does everyone on here have a ballpark? If a new patient calls right now, if they're calling your office, how many days until they can have that first appointment?
Between 1 to 2 weeks.
1 to 2 weeks? Less than 2 weeks? Someone says depends. I would say if it's a first-time bariatric surgery consult.
We're booked out 2 weeks right now, and I'm hoping to get that to a month. That's the game plan.
Less than 2 weeks, usually a week, 1 week to a month. Yeah. I would love to see the chart of for every day that they're booked in the future. Does anyone have any feedback, or do you say, yeah, if it's when we're super busy and it's 3 weeks wait time, we do see a higher no-show cancel rate? Is that true? Or would you say, nah, well, we're good. It's the same as if they can see the surgeon, tomorrow.
Danielle
So
says that's true. High cancel rate if booked out. Christina, we'll squeeze them in whenever they're available to come in, no matter if we're completely booked. Love it.
Megan, you said it's tough because of new patient paperwork. Is it something you could do to get them to fill that in after the consultation?
Surgeons do not like that. They want the paperwork done because it has the list of all their issues, and so they like to use that when they're going through their consult. And it just delays everything. We'll do it day of, but it delays the day for the surgeon. They get a little cranky. I do tell them they have to deal with it if they want to eat next month. So we make do if a patient just can't access the electronic stuff, and we send it to them in advance. They can do it all remotely, but some they need a little bit more help on the tele piece.
Danielle says, we'll have the patients arrive earlier to the appointment and the MA will do the paperwork with them. Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. Clinics have a wildly different no-show and cancel rate. And I think all sorts of factors. I mean, geography, city, location, patient demographic. But two of the things that I've seen have the most impact, clinics that the more you spend on marketing, right? The higher your budget for Google ads and Facebook ads, the wider net you're casting, you will get way, way more leads, but also you're casting a wider net. So those people, some people fill out a form and become a lead when, I mean, they were just, watching Netflix, drinking a Cabernet, and suddenly your ad popped up and they said, I'm 2 glasses in, I think I'm going to go see a surgeon. And so the more ads you spend, higher no-show cancel rate. What was the other thing I was going to say? Oh, time it takes for the appointment, and shoot, there was a third one. I just went totally blank. It was probably going to be really good too.
Well, I mean,
I
we
don't know
always
what it
talk about like, what does the patient get when they come in for the consult? So instead of just booking the consult and letting them fill in their minds, like, I guess this will be some sort of appointment, I don't really know, but just setting a few expectations and calming that lizard brain we all have of, we don't know what we're getting, and framing it in terms of benefits for the patient. So after the consultation, there's no pressure to move forward, but you'll have this information. You'll know exactly how much it'll cost. You'll know your options, and just making it, kind of switching it from what the patient will get. So instead of what you as the clinic, your process is, the patient doesn't care what your process is. The patient cares what they're going to get at the end of the day.
Yeah, I remembered it. It's easy in, easy out. So, and now Boost, we're bringing in more tools to make it easier for people to book. And so if you never have to interact with a human, like, we're trying to find what's the perfect balance of, yes, people should be able to book a consult on their cell phone at midnight, but also if you can book that and never interact with a human, it doesn't feel, it's not real to you. It's less real. So I never talk to anybody that thing's on my calendar. I'm not even going to go. In fact, I don't even know where their number is. I'm not even going to let them know. So easy in, easy out. I mean, sometimes you put up some barriers to qualify people, and you end up weeding out a bunch of people who would come in if it was easier. But you can also swing that too far the other way and say, just text us if you show up or don't, no problem, which also wrecks the schedule. I was going to say one other thing. Yeah, we should do a whole. Please pop into the chat other subjects that you would want to do one of these on with this group, because I think we could talk about medications, we could talk about marketing, we could talk about just follow-up. Once someone is coming in, how do they hear from you to confirm the appointment? What's the follow-up? What's the messaging? What's the cadence? Do you text them day of? Do you text them every day? Do you call them? Do you email them? I think all those things have an effect on who shows up. So